That was the other game. This is Steins Gate. I will be playing Steins Gate. Yeah, the other one, I fixed the capture card, I think. I have a replacement USB coming, so that should be here. I think it should be here today. So, ideally, tomorrow, Vengeance. Also, I don't know why I picked up my Switch controller. Of all the things... My headphones? No, my headphones are... I do need new headphones, though. That is also true. I picked up my Switch controller. Like, of all the things to pick up. I need a new lot of things. I need a new headset. This one's going... Like, I have a very temporary fix for this one, but it does need to be replaced. My webcam is, like, fine for now, but I do want to get a better one. Thank you, Steam. I mean, I was playing Fire Emblem Warriors earlier, so that's probably why I was just like, oh, all right, time to... Nope, this is not that game. That being said, Owain is strikingly similar to Okabe, like, which is hilarious to me. No wonder I love him. I love them both. Catching up tomorrow, fair enough. That's exciting. I'm excited for you, and for me. I don't know. Cute images before I go. Let's go. Cute images before we start. Before I start. Before it begins. Let's get some cute up in here. Let me preemptively pull up this. Switch to this bad boy. Let's go. Oh my god, that's incredible. I love it. I love it a lot. Behold. Fair enough. No, I love it. It's great. It's not the whole squad, but it's a good chunk of the squad. Let's fucking go. The phone to the ear. Incredible. All right, thank you for that. Here, do I have anything to fill in the gaps? Let's see if I can pull up something incredible. I don't think I have anything that hasn't already like been on like a game I've played, you know. Luca cosplays are next level. That's the next level shit. Bookmarks on Twitter. Oh boy, I have. I don't know if I should be flattered or. You know, let's go with flattered. Let's go with flattered. I'm flattered. Here is. Geez, I'm on the spot here. Here, you've seen this one before, but I'll throw it up again because it's the best. The squad. Are you just sitting on the ground? Glorious. Oh my goodness gracious. Incredible. Alright, she got me with the Oopa. Alright. I gotta move on. I should probably start. It's been 5 minutes. I'm gonna start playing the game now. Thank you for that. That was glorious. Oh yeah, and here's my contribution. It's not the most original contribution, but it is my contribution. Behold. I love this picture. Alright, one more. I love that there's some like flavor text with this one. There's lore. If I ever need an exorcism for my computer, that's who I'm calling. Oh, that's great. Oh man, incredible. I almost closed OBS. I meant to close this, but I almost shut down the stream. That would have been embarrassing. All right. Anyways. Thank you. That made my day. It begins. God, I can't get over how good this fucking track is. One more Mayuri. All right. I like how the it's daily Mayuri. That's pretty great. Yep, that's can't go wrong with the basic glorious cute. Oh my god. She's so precious. She's so precious. Look at that smile. Look at that smile. That is the most precious smile that ever smiled. She's the bestest. All right. Video games. Just grab my time. Let's not read too much into that, shall we? Let's leave. That's interesting. Let's leave it at interesting. Okay. Serious. I can't be serious. It's impossible. Victor Condrey University's grounds were dead quiet. It was after 11 p.m. Some of the labs worked all night and into the morning, so the place wasn't completely abandoned. But compared to daytime, it was quiet. The lights in the halls were off, and it was a little scary walking down them alone. Nope. There doesn't need to be judgment. There need be no judgment. No judgment is necessary. Thank you very much. Maho lived in the researchers' apartments next to the lab. She'd been thinking about, who's also the best. Like, that's the thing. They're the best in different ways. Mayuri is the best because Maho is the best because hell yeah, she's just the best. He doesn't get to judge me. He's a inanimate object. That's right. I took nothing away from Toy Story. It's not real. She'd been thinking about so many things that night. Her head felt like it was going to explode. Who are child's plaything? I love that movie. Then she looked out the window and realized that the lights were still on in the brain science lab. Dr. Leskinen must have been working late. She decided to put some coffee in a thermos and take it to him.
そもそも、なんで私はタイムマシンの研究なんかに没頭しているのかしら。
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell. I feel like I could quote that entire fucking movie. All right. That's my skill. I'm so good. I don't know. I don't know if that makes me a good streamer or a bad streamer, but see you later. That's talent, baby. That's something, right? Ever since she'd come back from Japan in January, she'd spent all her free time on it. Even she had to admit she was getting obsessed. Of course, being obsessed with a time machine, surely nothing will ever go wrong with that. Of course, since this wasn't something she could research in public, and since she couldn't let it interfere with her real job, she had to do all of it on her own in her own room at night. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but I trust you. I mean, it makes sense. No, okay, I got that one. Coincidence? I think not. I love that movie too. Oh, I need to. see, I pull you back in, and then you distract me from like I forget what I need to fucking do. As a result, she was staying up late battling with physics textbooks, an unfamiliar subject for her. Exhaustion and lack of sleep were starting to get to her. The whole idea of a time machine was stupid. I have been described as such. She still thought so, but she was surprised at how desperate she was getting. This is really sad. My heart breaks for Maho. This sucks. Here's bye. Goodbye. Here, I'll be perfectly silent for a good, 10 seconds so you can get out. Alright, if you're not out by now, that's your problem. What Okabe had said to her in Japan still stuck with her.
中鉢論文にはクリスが関わっていた可能性がある。
Rintaro could have been lying, or wrong, or simply delusional. But part of her wanted to believe it was real. Of course, from what she'd seen of Dr. Nakabachi's paper, she didn't want to believe Kurisu was involved. It was just that bad. Dude's a fucking hack. I'm gonna say it every time, because this dude's a fucking talentless piece of shit hack. I'm okay. But...
論文は劣化版で、もしもクリス自身が書いたオリジナルが存在するとしたら。
Dude's so talentless, he turned gold into dirt. What a fucking dipshit. Alright, move on from it. If she could have written it off as a slim possibility, everything would have been so much easier. But it was just like her, she thought, to be unable to do that. I want to find what Kurisu found. That desire was what drove her to action. But the more research she did, the harder it seemed. It was so hard she was starting to lose faith in what she wanted to believe. Her usual complex started weighing down on her.
Kurisu, 私、やっぱりあなたにはなれない。
Kurisu was her dear friend, but at the same time, she was starting to feel jealous, frustrated, and hateful. And when all those feelings started going around in her mind, there was no way she could focus on her work. It was time to chat with Dr. Leskinen for a little, and then go to sleep. She headed over to the lab.
教授?
ん? Yeah, Maho.
Dr. Leskinen seemed surprised at her sudden visit, but he stood up from his chair and welcomed her.
どうしたんだい? こんな夜中に。子供はもう寝る時間だよ。
その言葉、そっくりそのままお返しします。
Bitch.
違いない。
Dr. Leskinen laughed innocently, like a child at her cutting remark.
私の部屋から明かりが見えたものですから。これ、どうぞ。
The cup on Dr. Leskinen's desk was empty. She poured him some coffee from the thermos. It wasn't the sticky, sweet cafe au lait that she liked. She had made it straight black to match the professor's tastes. The room was filled with steam and a pleasant smell.
これは驚いた。魔法がカフェをご馳走してくれるとは。
私だってこのくらいの気は利きますよ。
でも君はこういうのが嫌いだっただろう？あれは確か君がこの研究所に来た最初の日だったかな。メリーがみんなにモーニングカフェを配って回っていたら、君はそれを断ってこう言ったじゃないか。あなたはカフェを入れるためにここに勤務しているのですか？その時間があったら早く仕事を始めてはどうですとね。
That sounds like Maho.
いやいや、すごい子が来たものだと驚かされたよ。
そんな古い話、今さら持ち出さなくてもいいじゃないですか。
Someday I'm gonna get this, like, just right. I gotta find that Goldilocks zone. Get it just right. Maho's cheeks swelled in embarrassment.
あの頃は天才少女とか言われてちょっといい気になってたというか、何もわからない子供だったんです。ちゃんと反省はしています。
Mary was another scientist at the lab. After Maho had apologized, they'd gone on to be friends.
本当に教授は意地悪ですね。もう二度とコーヒーなんて持ってきませんから、そのつもりで。
Just as she was thinking of taking the coffee she'd poured back,
そうですよ、教授。あんまり先輩をいじめないであげてください。
she heard a voice from Dr. Leskinen's computer.
あら、クリス。
はい、私です。
I've been here the whole time. Hello.
ちょうど彼女のプログラムの検証中だったんだ。
She moved around to where she could see the monitor, and sure enough, the Kurisu CG model was displayed on it.
こんばんは、先輩。
こんな時間までご苦労様。
Maho chuckled to herself. Kurisu was just a program running on a computer, but she still couldn't stop herself from saying things like that. After all the time they'd spent together, Kurisu was no different than a human to her.
別に私は魔法をいじめてるわけじゃないよ。メアレイとの件だって私は魔法を好ましく思ったものさ。極めて合理的でクールで、しかも面白い子だとね。
Mad scientist, so cool.
だから私の助手になってもらったわけだし。もちろん今の優しい君も嫌いじゃないけどね。
Nicer version. Maho 2.0. Dr. Leskinen gave her a wink as he reached for his coffee cup.
ありがとう。いただくよ。
As he drank his coffee, he grabbed the corners of his eyelids and gave them a little massage. He was acting cheerful, but evidently he was really tired.
プログラムの検証って何をしていたんです？
ああ、今まとめている論文のあれだよ。
アマデウスが嘘をつくメカニズムですか？
その部分のプログラムが解析できると、人間が嘘をつく仕組みももっと詳しくわかるんだがね。
女性の嘘は時に重大な秘密を含んでいます。それを暴こうというのは感心しません。
Kurisu's expression was deadly serious.
何も君の嘘を暴こうって言うんじゃない。嘘をつく時の思考の過程を知りたいだけだよ。
まあいいです。何か暴露する羽目になったら、まず真帆先輩が隠してる甘い秘密を喋ることにしますから。
Sweet secrets.
ちょっとおかしなことを言わないでちょうだい。っていうか、甘い秘密って何？
なんでしょうね。
She played dumb. Sometimes Kurisu liked to joke around. It was infuriating and at the same time kind of cute.
例えばゲームセンターで彼に取ってもらったぬいぐるみの件、私が気づいていないとでも？
は？
The first thing she thought when she heard the word arcade was what happened back in Akihabara, Japan. She'd tried so many times to get the stuffed animal and failed each time. Rintaro had won easily and given it to her.
あれが何？
ずっと先輩のベッドに置いてあるんですよね。
何をバカなことを言っているの？あれはクリスのお母さんへのお土産よ。
じゃあなんで先輩の部屋に？
だってお母さんは新しい家をまだ探してるって言うし、それまでは仮のアパートメント住まいだし、引っ越しの時の荷物になったらあれかなと思って。
当ですか？
ほんとよ。だいたいあのぬいぐるみは私にとってもクリスの大事な思い出なんですもの。抱いて寝るのがそんなにおかしい？
やっぱり先輩のベッドにあるんですね、あれ。しかも抱いて寝てるなんてとってもキュート。そのあたりもっと詳しく教えてください。
Mad scientist, so cute. Not quite. That stupid computer program had tricked her. By the time she realized it, it was already too late. Both Kurisu and Dr. Leskinen, who'd been listening the whole time, were smiling at her. She glared at them, her cheeks flushed.
これ
Secrets
はどうや
revealed.
らクリスの勝ちのようだね。
勝ち負けとか関係ありません。もう私は寝ます。おやすみなさい。
She turned to leave Dr. Leskinen's office, fuming. But before she could leave, Kurisu got in one final parting shot.
先輩、もう1週間も岡部と連絡取ってませんよ。忙しいからといって連絡をおろそかにしていると後で後悔しちゃいますからね。
あのね、どうしてもあなたは私と岡部さんをくっつけたいの
Maho stormed over to the monitor, but Kurisu seemed unconcerned.
たまには直接会ってみたいなって思ったりしませんか？
思いません。
そうか、残念だな。
For some reason, Dr. Leskinen shook his head sadly.
近々また共同研究で日本に呼ばれているんだ。その時、リンターローに連絡を取ってみようと思っているんだ。魔法も一緒に連れて行こうかどうか悩んでいたんだが、これはやめた方が良さそうだね。
She'd heard nothing about this. Most of the time, whenever the professor had a project coming up, she'd hear about it through the school's network ahead of time.
日本へまた行くんですか？
うん。
She had to stop herself from immediately saying she wanted to go too. If she did, Dr. Leskinen and Kurisu would make fun of her again. But she didn't want to miss the chance. There was still a lot she needed to do in Japan. More than anything, she wanted to talk to Rintaro in person, about the time machine and about Kurisu. It definitely was not just because she liked talking to him. Not at all.
ぜひ私も連れて行ってください。
In the end, she gave in.
おお、ついに素直になったんだね。
では告白プランを考えましょう。
Oh my god. God damn, it is like, she is like maximum troll. Like, I mean, we all know that Kurisu is a troll, but like, this Kurisu is the trolliest troll.
あなたたちね。
It's unreal. Maho was starting to get tired of dealing with them.
ま、冗談はさておき。君を連れて行けるかどうかは微妙なところなんだ。
というと？
君は日本でいろいろな事件に巻き込まれたろう。脳科学研究所としてはそのことをかなり気にしていてね。
そんな。
クリスの件もあったし、優秀な人材をこれ以上危険な目に遭わせるわけにいかないというのが理事たちの考えなんだよ。
私なら大丈夫です。現にこうして無事でいるじゃないですか。
ほう。つまり魔法はそこまでして日本にいるリンタロウに会いたいと。
I was fine last time. We definitely weren't attempted to be almost assassinated by some crazy fucking lunatic. That definitely didn't happen. Everything's fine. Convince the higher, like, that there's surely nothing could possibly go wrong this time. Nothing happened last time, after all. We didn't get almost assassinated. Our makeshift lab didn't get broken into. You know, nothing like that. Nothing crazy.
いい加減セクハラになりますよ。
Oh, sorry は勘弁してくれ。
でも本気で交際を検討してみては。将来的には岡部もこっちに来る可能性があるんでしょ。
Kurisu.
だったら今のうちに唾をつけておくべきですって。
Calm down. Your hooks. What hooks?
おせっかいな親戚のおばさんみたいなことを言うのはやめなさい。
魔法の考えは理解したよ。私からも理事に話をしてみよう。ただし、だからといって日本に行けるという保証はできないからね。
はい、ありがとうございます。
私は結構本気なんですけどね。
まだ言っているの？まったく。
It really felt like she was talking to Kurisu. The feeling was much stronger than when they first started on Amadeus. And that reminded her of something she'd almost done many times but stopped.
このクリスにタイムマシンのことを相談してみたらどうだろう。
She didn't know if Kurisu had completed the time machine theory before her death, but if she had, some clues to it might be hidden in Kurisu's memories. Of course, she couldn't ask her in front of Dr. Leskinen, and she couldn't let the others hear that she was making a time machine. If the rest of the lab found out, they'd make fun of her for sure. It wasn't even her field of research to begin with.
それじゃあ教授、そろそろ部屋に戻って寝ます。
Maho took her thermos and was about to leave the lab.
あ、ちょっと待った。最近魔法の記憶データを全く更新していないだろう？
あ？
アムデウスの魔法のことだよ。
ああ、
日本に行く前に採取したデータが最後じゃないか？
それはですね。
Maho didn't know what to say. He was right.
日本ではいろいろと怖い体験をしましたし、アマデウスに悪い記憶を残すこともないかなと。
気持ちはわかるが、このままだと比較実験ができない。
A comparison trial involved loading memories from both before and after a given experience into Amadeus and seeing how it changed. These trials allowed them to see what effects experiences and knowledge had on the brain, but after Kurisu's passing, they became solely Maho's responsibility.
今の君とアムデウスの魔法とではあまりにも記憶が食い違いすぎていて、別人と言ってもいいほどになってしまっている。
はい、そうですね。
このままだと君をこのプロジェクトから外して他の誰かに頼まなくてはならないかもしれないよ。
それは。
Her expression darkened.
クリスばかり相手にしていないで、たまには自分も構ってあげなさい。きっと寂しがっている。明日必ず記憶の更新をしておくように。いいね？
That'd be fucking weird. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that would be such a trippy experience to, like, just chat with, like, a digital version of your own memories that like, has developed in a different way, and so it's kind of like a different person, but it's you. No, thank you. No, thank
わかり
you.
ました。
Maho nodded her head and left the room. The reason she'd given to Dr. Leskinen for not updating Maho's memories was a real concern, but there was also another one. Rintaro's words.
なあ、アマデウスの研究には米軍が関与していたりはしないよな。
She had no proof, but she couldn't get his words out of her mind. Was some great power involved in the Amadeus research? Something so powerful it was outside even Dr. Leskinen's control. If she updated her memory data, Maho would learn about Kurisu's laptop and hard disk. She trusted Amadeus, but that would mean whoever was secretly trying to use the project for their own ends would find out. It seemed silly, almost delusional, to be worried about something like that. You might even say it's chunibyo. She couldn't get it out of her mind ever since she'd come back to America.
でもやっぱり
Some chuny bullshit.
考えすぎよね。
But it's real, so it's not. She whispered to herself.
誰かそこにいるの？
She heard a woman's voice from down the dark hallway. Maho stopped dead in her tracks. The hallway lights flipped on, and she saw a group of men and women coming down the corridor that connected her building to the next one. The next building over was the psychophysiology lab. Maho's brain science lab mostly investigated the workings of the brain itself. The psychophysiology lab, on the other hand, was more of a medical department. They looked at how the workings of the brain affected mental states and mental illnesses.
すみません、比谷城真帆です。レスキネン教授の研究室の。
The woman at the head of the group was someone she knew. It was Dr. Reyes, a scientist at the psychophysiology lab.
あら、真帆だったの。
レイエス教授、こんな時間にお仕事ですか？
あなたも？
ええ、まあ。
お互いに仕事中毒だわね。
Judy Reyes's eyes narrowed beneath her glasses as she laughed.
Alexis は？
I don't know how to say that.
まだ自分のオフィスよね。
はい、アマデウスの研究を。
ほんとご執心ね。自分の娘と勘違いしてるんじゃないかしら。
こんな時間にレスキネン教授にお会いになるんですか？もし緊急でのミーティングなら私も。
その必要はないわ。私の研究に少し問題があってね。至急彼の知恵を借りたいのよ。あなたがいても特に頼めることはないでしょうし。あ、気を悪くしないでね。
I want his help and I want it now. Dr. Reyes kept smiling as she walked past Maho toward the lab. The other scientists followed her.
研究に問題って一体何だろう？
She took a closer look and saw that she didn't recognize one of the people in the group. It was hard to say why exactly she noticed him. He just didn't look like a scientist. When you spend enough time doing research, you start to get a feel for people who are in the same line of work. But he had a totally different air about him, and what was worse, he was behaving extremely rudely toward Dr. Reyes. If he was one of her staff, he wouldn't act like that. And while everyone else was wearing white lab coats, he was wearing a freshly pressed suit. It just didn't feel right. She was about to head back to her room when... It bothered her enough that she turned right back around and silently crept back to Dr. Leskinen's lab. The door was slightly ajar. She could hear voices inside. She knew it was wrong, but she decided to push her face up against the door to listen.
いつまで泳がせておくつもり？
貴重な情報源だ。下手に動いて破棄でもされたらもったいないだろう。いずれにせよ今月中に日本に立つ。そこで回収するつもりさ。
なぜ半年近くも様子を見たのか、納得のいく説明ができるのかしら。
It's so weird hearing him talk like that.
彼らは我々が知っていること以上の何かを隠しているような気がしてね。
It's so deep. The voice is so deep. What happened? Nope, we're good. Gotta keep an eye on my phone.
そこでアマデウスを使って聞き出そうとしたんだが。 かなり警戒心が強い慎重な青年だよ、リンターロ岡部は。
真帆にお得意の施術でもしてあげたら？
彼女は何も知らないと思うがね。
Maho started to panic when she heard her name. Don't do that! And then she realized she'd made a big mistake. She was so focused on listening to the conversation that she'd pressed her shoulder into the door. The door to the lab wasn't very well built. There was a loud creak, and everyone in the lab turned around.
誰？
Well, fuck. She knew she should probably run, but her body refused to move. She couldn't understand what she was hearing, even after they found her, she still couldn't move. She couldn't believe it. She didn't want to believe it. This was worse than being in a thriller, she thought. The other scientists who were with Dr. Reyes grabbed her arms tightly and dragged her into the room.
教授、今の話は一体。
Well, fuck. Dr. Leskinen looked a little sad as he walked over to her. His huge body leaned forward and peered into her face.
やれやれ、聞いてしまったんだね。まあ、ちょうどいい。魔法、さっきの日本行きの話だけどね。やはり君にも一緒に来てもらおう。
She didn't know what he meant. Weren't the directors opposed to it? Was it something Dr. Leskinen could decide on his own? What was good timing? Confused, she glanced over at the computer screen, but Kurisu was no longer there. The one thing she knew was... Okabe's words weren't the delusions of a conspiracy theorist after all. Shit. Shit. It was almost July. The rainy season hadn't been that bad this year, and what little remained of it had already disappeared. Temperature-wise, summer had come a long time ago.
夏か。
In other words, it had been almost been a year since it happened. And then one Saturday afternoon, if I stayed home, not only would it be hot, but Dad would be on my case about helping with the family business. To get away, I'd come to the area around Ikebukuro Station. A year ago, I could have gone to the lab, but with Suzuha living there now, I mostly stopped going. But that meant it was hard to find a place to study on my days off. It was too much trouble to go to the university. And the classrooms probably weren't open on weekends anyway. After a lot of research, I'd settled on spending my free days visiting this cafe near my parents' home and spending a few hours there. It is so bizarre to me to see a normal-ass cafe. Like, it's basically a Starbucks. Like, sorry, a Starbucks. I mean, fuck, maybe that's exactly what it is. Is this supposed to be a Starbucks? It's weird seeing a cafe that isn't fucking May Queen. It ain't right. Where's the cat ears, goddammit? In fact, a lot of the other patrons did the same thing I did, buying a single cup of coffee and sitting there for hours on end. Some brought books, some brought computers. I chuckled to myself as I realized I'd joined the ranks of the other normies. Don't you ever say that again, Okabe. Don't you ever say that. Don't do it. Do-do-do. Where are you now? I love these so much. Oh, the usual cafe, right? I just went to your place and you weren't home. You did? Did my dad make a nuisance of himself again? Oh god, I want to know, like, god damn it, we need interactions with Okabe's parents. Said it once, I said it 1,000 times. It's okay, he gave me some barley tea. I have to go shopping. Will you come with me? Okay. Okay. Thank you. How many, like, I keep saying it as if I haven't already said it. I love these so much. Thank you with the fucking kitten paws and shit. Okay, I'll leave now. Wait for me. So they went to my house? My family's business was called Okabe Greengrocer. It was a beat-up old store located in a rundown shopping street. The place was almost 40 years old. I really wanted them to rebuild it. My mind had wandered. Mayuri was going to be here in less than 15 minutes, so maybe it was time to call it a day. I'd worked pretty hard during the morning, so it wasn't too bad. I was a little surprised at how hard I'd been working lately. I could feel how having a goal gave me energy. I needed to get to Victor Condria University as soon as I could.
Victor Condria 大学か。
Since I was still testing Amadeus, I'd kept in touch with Maho via email and online chat. She must have been working hard because she was always sleepy. Yellow?
はい。
何よ。どうして声を潜めてる？
しっ。今店の中なんだ。頼むから。俺の都合に関係なく連絡してくるのはやめてくれ。
あんたがどこで何してるかなんてさ
I was about to say, how would she
すが
fucking
に
know?
把握してないわよ。それとも私に24時間監視してほしいの？あんたが寝てる姿とかお風呂入ってる姿とか全部覗き見してほしいと？なかなかの変態ね。
Oh my lord. Stop
知
it.
った口を聞いてすみませんでした。
私が連絡したってあんたが出たくなければ出なくていいの。それぐらいで怒ったりしない。
That's true. That was on me. I answered the phone.
そうだな。
まあ、今は迷惑みたいだからお望み通り切るわ。確かにスマホで 3D モデルの女と真面目な顔して会話してる大学生男子ってかなり気持ち悪いし。
お前な。
冗談よ。いつも相手をしてくれてこれでも一応感謝はしてるんだからな。
A rare bit of earnest honesty from Kurisu.
そういう話はいいからとにかく切るぞ。
Kurisu always talked so much. The real one used to talk a lot too. Talking to her in a place like this always drew a lot of attention and made me feel awkward. Looking at a screen and talking was embarrassing, was all, so I'd once proposed that I talk to her like I was on a normal phone. And this is what she'd said. Why do I have to stare at a close-up of the side of your head? She really was a selfish little program. Mayuri and I met up and headed for Tokyo Hands. When I stepped inside the air-conditioned store, I felt refreshed. If it was this hot in June, I shuddered to think what it was going to be like in July or August.
それで一体何を買うつもりなんだ？
Adorable.
商品宣伝用のポップを作るんだ。だからそれ用のカードとか蛍光ペンとか。
今年はコミマで同人誌でも出す気か？
違うよ。岡部製菓店で使うんだよ。
は？なんだって？
My family business?
今日オカリンの家に行った時にね、おじさんとそんな話になって、じゃあマユシーが作りますって立候補したの。
おいおい。
I hope she's getting paid for this. My dad could be such a jerk.
お前がそんなことする必要ないんだぞ。
でもマユシーがやりたいからやっているのです。
本当にいいのか？
おか リンやおじさんおばさんにはいつもお世話になってるから。
じゃあ代わりに今度何かプレゼントするよ。
本当嬉しいな。
I took a quick look around and saw that they were selling a lot of things you could use for advertising. Also, boop. I decided to mostly leave the purchasing decisions up to Mayuri. She spent quite a while deciding what to buy. But, well, maybe because of all the time she spent at May Queen Yanyan, her taste ran in the direction of cute and anime. I mean, that's just because she's cultured, you know? She's got, it's called good taste, Okabe. What are you talking about? Part of me thought it was dangerous to leave it up to her, but still, they'd asked her, not me. It wasn't any of my business. I mean, that's fair, yeah. If your dad is like, hey, make us a sign, and she makes him a sign, they can't complain. I should just leave it to her. And so I decided to wander around the store while Mayuri finished her shopping. But... oh boy.
どうかしたか？
もしかして買い物中？
Let me find a quiet corner to chat in.
ああ、マユリとな。
へえ、デート？
スイーツかっこ笑い。
その呼び方はやめろと言っとろうが。
Well, stop being it.
だったらお前も恋愛脳の癖を直すんだな。
はいはい、わかったわよ。でも、まゆりさんって可愛いわよね。あんな可愛い年下の幼馴染がいるなんて、あんた恵まれてるわよ。
そうだな。
これじゃ真帆先輩の勝ち目は絶望的じゃない。
Oh my god. Teresa, please.
可愛いでもないし、年齢でも勝てないし、身長も負けてるし、あとバスト的なものも惨敗だし。
Oh my god, Grace. I beg of you.
かわいそうな先輩。
それをヒヤジョーさんの前で言ったらプログラム丸ごと消去されるぞ。
というか、私未だにまゆりさんを紹介してもらってない。あんた友達は結構いるのに、私のことは誰にも教えようとしないわよね。
守秘義務的なものがあるんだ。あまり人に教えないようにって言われてる。
本当にそれだけなの？実は私と話してるのを人に見られたくないんじゃない？
そんなことはないさ。どうしても紹介してほしいならヒヤジョーさんに許可をもらうぞ。手始めに俺が一番頼りにしている男であるダルを紹介しよ
う。That's a threat.
あいつならお前には相当食いつくはずだ。
24時間延々と色目線で見つめられてハーハーされ続けるんですね。わかります。
That is correct.
変態が怖い。
Kurisu went pale and started to shake. I had told Kurisu all kinds of things about what kind of person Daru was. She could easily imagine what would happen if she ever fell into his clutches.
やっぱり紹介はしてくれなくていいわ。あんたが相手をしてくれるだけで十分と思わなくちゃ。
Aww.
おかり
ーん。Mayuri walked over, carrying a shopping basket.
あれ？今誰と話してたの？
I looked down at my phone. Kurisu had disappeared and my smartphone was back on its home screen. Evidently, Kurisu had hung up. Oh, I thought he hung up.
大学の先輩からだった。
そっか。
Lies. I knew I didn't have to hide Kurisu, but at the same time, Mayuri was the one person I didn't want finding out. She knew that I'd failed to save Makise Kurisu last summer.
それで買うものは決まったか？
That's fair. Yeah.
こんな感じでどうかな。
The basket was filled with hearts and star-shaped cardstock. This didn't really go with our store's look. but I decided when I'd started, I was going to let Mayuri make the decisions. Dad might complain later, but I didn't care. He asked, motherfucker. Like, he was the one who asked Mayuri for help, not me. So I went over to the register. Since it was a Saturday, the checkout area was overflowing with shopping carts. Since it was going to take a while, I sent Mayuri to browse the toy section on another floor. I knew they'd have some stuff from one of her favorite shows, Rainet Kakeru. Mayuri looked apologetic, but did what I told her to do. I fucking love this song. Every time the music changes, I'm like, oh, I love this song. I love them all. In the end, I waited a whole 15 minutes at the register. As an apology, I decided to get the present I'd promised her. I can't, like, get over how these two individuals look so out of place. Like, everybody else is just like, you know, background, filler characters, background individuals. These two look like they're something. They look like main characters, do they not? Just something about the fucking shirts and like the really not super detailed, but detailed patterning on the fucking shirts. I don't know. They look too interesting to just be background characters. Also, what does that shirt say? See, now I'm focused on the background. The fuck does that say? Youngwood? Soma and Youngwood. I don't know what that means. Anyway, as an apology, I decided to get the present I'd promised her. How's an apology if you were already promised it? I'm reading too much into it. She seemed really happy as she stared at the keychain. It was Upa, the mascot character from the Rainet Kakeru series. I told her when she went over to the toy section she could pick out anything she wanted, and this was what she chose.
ウーパならもう大量に持ってるのにずいぶん嬉しそうだな。しかもそれって普通の緑色のウーパだろ？レアなやつじゃないよな。
Okabe, are you looking at it? A regular green Upa? Please! Open your eyes, man!
レアなのは確かメタルウーパだっけか。
The most popular and rarest of the Upas was the shiny silver metal Upa. For example, whenever there was a lottery for rare Rainet Kakeru stuff at the convenience stores, the top prize was always a metal Upa. Mayuri had told me once that they sold for tens of thousands of yen at auction. I love when she gets all, like, confident. I can just imagine her, like, shaking her finger, just... For some reason, Mayuri was... I knew it! I know it! Oh, that's so funny. For some reason, Mayuri was wagging her finger at me.
違うんだな。これはね、緑のウーパさんだけど、普通のとは違うの。
She's like, you're in my world now. Now I am the expert.
この前やってた映画に登場した緑の妖精さんウーパなんだよ。
Come to think of it, there had been a Rainet Kakeru movie out in spring. Had Mayuri sat in a theater full of little kids to watch it?
緑の妖精さん？
映画のネタバレしてもいいかな？
I ain't gonna say
いい
it.
ぞ、どうせ見ないし。
It's not real, so I'm certainly not gonna say it.
今回の映画はね、バーチャル世界で悪のスーパーハッカーさんたちとバトルをするんだ。そのバーチャル世界が妖精さんの住む森なのです。スーパーハッカーさんはすごく強くてね、かけるくんもウーパもピンチになっちゃうんだけど、もうダメだーっていう時にね、妖精さんたちが助けに来てくれるの。実はその妖精さんたちは かけるくんがお世話をしてた学校の花壇のお花さんたちだったんだよ。いつも優しくしてくれるかけるくんを助けるためにね、バーチャル世界でピカピカーンって光ってウーパと合体するんだ。それがこの緑の妖精さんウーパー。すっごくかわいいし、すっごく強いんだよ。まゆし感動したな。そういう話に弱いんだ。監督さん天才だよ。
なるほどな。
It was rare for Mayuri to get this excited about something. I fucking love it. She's so happy. I took a closer look and saw that the design was a little different from the standard Upa. A little my ass. I didn't know a lot about Upas, so I couldn't say exactly what was different. Okay, so she just has never seen an Upa before, I guess.
このキーホルダーね、結構あちこち探してたんだ。
Look at it for 2 seconds, you can find out what's different about it.
すっごく人気があってね、どこも売り切れだったんだよ。まさかハンズに残ってるなんて思わなかったな。
ラッキーだったな。
しかもこれが最後の1個だったんだよ。今日は来てよかった。オカリンとおじさんには感謝しなくちゃ。
Mayuri took the tag off the keychain, got her house key out of her bag, and carefully attached it.
ねえオカリン、まゆしね、これずっと大切にするね。
おお、そうしてくれ。くれぐれも買って5分でなくしたりしないようにな。
Dude! Let her have this. It had happened before, after all. Like the metal Upa I'd won for at Radicon. Mayuri had lost it no more than 5 minutes after I gave it to her. I'd wondered if she ever found it. I didn't really want to remember that time in my life, so my memory of what happened to the metal Upa was vague. Oh yeah, you didn't watch the
もう絶対に
that part didn't happen.
なくさないのです。
The two of us started to head back.
オカリンのお店のポップ張り切って作るね。
ああ、その作業があったな。
I'd been thinking the job was done once we bought the materials. The real work actually began now.
俺も手伝おうか？
大丈夫。マユシーのセンスを信じてほしいな。
ハートマークのポップを買おうとしてた時点でセンスを疑うぞ。
大丈夫だよ。
まあポップを作ってくれるだけでもありがたいから文句は言わないけどな。
お母さんにメールしなきゃ。晩ご飯までには帰りますって。
なんならうちで食べてってもいいぞ。どうせ親父やおふくろが引き止めるだろうし。
どうしようかな。オカリンは今日はこの後ずっと家にいるの？合コンとか行かない？
最近は全然行ってないよ。
Last fall, when I'd been trying to become a normal college kid, I'd forced myself to go to as many as possible. But lately, I've been so busy with my studies that I hadn't had a chance.
そっか。じゃあごちそうになっていこうかな。
Mayuri took out her phone and started to type something when her expression suddenly darkened. She stopped moving.
どうした？
ついさっきね、楓さんからメールが来てて気づかなかったよ。どうしよう、オカリン。
No, not sad Mayuri, no. Mary seemed like she was on the verge of tears.
何かあったのか？
What happened?
ねえオカリ、前に言ってたよね。吹雪ちゃんは病気なんかじゃないって。
吹雪ちゃん？中瀬さんのことか？来島さんの方じゃなくて？
あれって本当に病気じゃないんだよね。
おう、違うはずだ。
でも
Mary showed me her phone. Fubuki-chan's back in the hospital. I'm on my way. Here's the location.
また入院しただって？
I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen. Fubuki was at a different location than before. This time it was the AH Tokyo General Hospital High-Tech Medical Center in Yoyogi. Oh no, not this place! Shit, this is the worst place to go. Fuck this hospital. It was supposedly one of Japan's most advanced hospitals. Don't go to the basement. You won't like what you find. According to what I read on the internet, patients with the new encephalitis that everyone was talking about were being gathered here for special treatment. But I'd also read lots of really bad urban legends about the place, and I was a bit worried about what kind of horror show I'd find there. Is it gonna say which urban legends, or is it just gonna tell me what urban legends are? Okay. Rumors whose source is unknown or unclear, mainly from the 20th century or later. They can be divided into ghost stories, occult stories, and folklore, but the differences between these three categories have become rather vague recently. Urban legends range from short, silly stories to absolutely terrifying and nightmarish, and all of them are told as if they really happened. Examples of urban legends include the Japanese urban legend Hakano-san, Shadow People, or the Men in Black. I've decided if I open the tips, I've committed to reading whatever the fucking tip is. But of course, when we arrived, it was nothing like that. It was very clean and decorated like a luxury hotel. On the outside, sure. This place is fucked.
オカリンさん、こっちです。
Kaede and Yuki waved to us as we entered the lobby. Yuki had gotten a message from Kaede as well, and evidently come right over. Also, I fucking love Kaede's outfit. I'm gonna be honest, I love that shirt. I love that top. That's a great top. Anyways.
吹雪ちゃんは大丈夫だよ。
Yuki gave Mayuri a I almost said soft smug and a heil. No, a soft hug and a smile. Kaede bowed her head apologetically.
驚かせてごめんね。私も焦っちゃって。もっとちゃんと確認してからメールすればよかった。
というと、中瀬さんの容体は？
今病室で吹雪ちゃんのお母さんに会えたんですけど、例の病気が悪化したとかじゃないそうです。
じゃあまた検査入院とか？
はい、そう言ってました。だから全然心配ないって。なんだ、はあ、よかった。
Mayuri looked extremely relieved as Yuki continued to hug her. If I remembered right, the last time they examined her, they said it was possible she had the disease, but as long as it didn't get worse, it wouldn't affect her daily life. They just told her to come back for regular checkups. The new encephalitis had arrived in Japan over 6 months ago, but the number of patients was still increasing. Fortunately, there hadn't been a single casualty is the word. I was looking at it like causality, which is not the word that is written. There hasn't been a single casualty yet.
あれは病気なんかじゃないと思うけどな。
I was certain that what they were calling encephalitis was actually something similar to reading Steiner. One time when I went to visit Fubuki in the hospital, I had secretly investigated the other patients. I wasn't able to get any proof, but I found out most of the patients in the wing had, to varying degrees, memories of the same world line. Many people had memories of Japan at war.
吹雪ちゃんに会えるかな。それがね、今 MRI で脳の検査をしている最中なんですって。だから病室にいないの。そうなんだ。でももう少しで終わるみたいよ。ここで待っていてって吹雪ちゃんのお母さんが。
Kaede motioned to Mayuri, indicating that she should sit down at a nearby sofa.
検査が終わったら声をかけてくれるみたい。
I let the girls sit down on the sofa and stood next to them while I surveyed the lobby.
すごい病院ですよね。
中瀬さんの家って実はすごい金持ちだったりするのか？こんなところに入院なんて。
いえ、そうじゃなくってですね。吹雪ちゃんのお母さんの話だと、日本とアメリカの政府がお金を出して新しい治療のプロジェクトを始めるみたいなんです。この病院とアメリカの専門病院や研究所が中心になってやるんだそうですよ。
そうなのか。
I wasn't sure how I felt about that. I was right about what this disease really was. It was hard to imagine a bigger waste of money.
お願いします。患者は全員個室にしてください。それも患者同士が接触しないよう、なるべく離れた部屋で。
しかしね、そんな都合よく病床は空いていませんから。
それでもやってくれないとダメです。患者同士が会話をすることで夢の情報を共有してしまうでしょう。
Do it anyway. That's not how space works.
いや、それはそうですが。
脳というのはね、他人が見た夢なのに、それに共感を覚えてしまうと、あたかも自分が見た夢のように錯覚してしまう。そういう可能性だってあるのです。
Across the lobby, I saw an old Japanese doctor in a white lab coat and a big man in a suit who was frantically trying to talk to him. I'd seen the man in the suit before. Actually, it was a man I knew well.
教授！レスキネン教授！
Yeah, I know him well too. I hurried over.
レスキネン教授！俺です。岡部です。
He must have been wearing his translator because he was communicating with the old doctor in Japanese. Dr. Leskinen's face quickly broke into a smile when he saw me.
Oh, Rintaro!
His voice was so loud that everyone in the lobby, doctors, nurses, and staff, and even the patients, turned to look at me. Dr. Leskinen didn't seem to notice them as he ran over. He was like a giant American football player racing for a touchdown.
うわー、ちょっと待ってください、教授！ストップ！ストップ！
My cries went unheard as Dr. Leskinen tackled me and then pulled me up. Then he switched from football player to pro wrestler, and he swung me up and down. I felt like I was a little child. There was nothing I could do to resist him as he flung me around. A moment later, he noticed the cold stares of the people around us and finally released me.
いやはや、すまない。
Oh my lord.
あまりに驚いて、はしゃぎすぎてしまった。
Dr. Leskinen bowed to the people around him in apology.
レスキネン先生、この青年とはどういったお知り合いかな？
The doctor that Professor Leskinen had been talking to was staring at me suspiciously.
その
Lintalo, obviously. I wasn't sure what to tell him. It wasn't like he was really my professor.
見たところまだ学生のようだが、どこの大学かね？教授と同じ脳科学専攻だとすると。
いえ、俺は
彼は9月からビクトゥ・コンドリア大学の学生ですよ。いずれ私の研究室に来てもらうつもりでいます。
おほう、ビクトル・ポンドリア大学かね。これは驚いた。
I looked over at Dr. Leskinen questioningly, but he just gave me a mischievous smile. This guy. He really was such a kid.
日本人であそこへ行ける学生なんてめったにいない。大したものだ。
Just an innocent little boy.
どうも。
Totally. After the doctor left, I sighed loudly enough for Professor Leskinen to hear me.
今の人は
この病院の院長だよ。
院長？そんな偉い人相手に堂々と嘘をついたんですか？
おや、私は嘘なんてついたかな？確かに9月から我が校の学生とは言ったが、何も今年の9月からとは言ってないよ。それとも何かい？君は結局我が校に来る自信がないのかな？だったら少し残念だが。
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct. He really was like a little kid, completely shameless. But still, it was hard to hate him.
でも驚きました。まさか教授がまた日本に来ているなんて。
It had been 5 months since I'd seen him off at Narita.
魔法も一緒に来ているよ。
そうなんですか？一言も教えてもらってませんが。
I talked to her often via email and video chat, mostly about Amadeus's testing, but she hadn't said a word about coming to Japan. I hadn't heard anything about it from Kurisu either.
またあの和光市の武装のオフィスだよ。クリスと一緒にいつでも遊びに来るといい。泥棒に入られるから別の場所にしてくれと訴えたんだがね。
Dr. Leskinen looked up toward the ceiling and shrugged. It did feel like that place had security issues.
ウィンタールはどこか具合でも悪いのかい？治療でここに？
いえ、違います。入院してる友人の見舞いで。
ああ、そうか。それはよか。いや、その友人にとっては良くないか。申し訳ない。
いえ。それで、教授こそ日本の病院で何を？
Dr. Leskinen brought his face close to mine and whispered so that the people around us couldn't hear him.
君も知っているだろう。例の新型脳炎の件だよ。アメリカ政府の依頼で精神生理学研究所が治療法を研究していたんだが、手詰まりらしくてね。私も調査に加わるよう大学から命じられたというわけさ。
そうなんですか。レスキネン教授が新型脳炎を。
Now there was a word I didn't expect to hear. I explained that my friend was here because they thought she might have had the disease.
もしかしてその友人というのは中瀬克美？
クリスマスパーティーで会ってましたね。
実は私が新型脳炎に興味を持ったのもあのパーティーがきっかけでね。君と克美が揃って倒れただろう？
He was right, actually. In my case, I'd been sent to that other world line.
克美には何日か前に再会したんだけどね。私にも何度か噛みついてきたよ。どうしてまた入院させられるんだ？私は元気なのにってね。
そうでしたか。
もう少し協力的になってくれると嬉しいとリンタロウからも伝えておいてくれないかい？実際のところキャツミだけでなく全ての患者に申し訳ないという気持ちはあるんだ。我々も日本の医師団も研究を進めてはいるんだけどね。 どにも解せない検査結果ばかりで困り果てているのさ。
Dr. Leskinen's usually chipper expression darkened. The man was such a ball of vitality that I hadn't noticed until then, but when his smile disappeared, I could see the wrinkles that had formed on his face from exhaustion. He must have been working hard, like he said.
正直、最初はどの医師もこれほど不可解な病気だとは思っていなかったらしいんだけどね。ん？どうしたんだ、リンタロウ？
その
何か気になることでも？
いえ、俺は医学生じゃないのでさっぱりです。
I was just about to tell him about my reading Steiner, but in the end, I couldn't. If my uninformed opinion was wrong, it could cost the encephalitis patients their lives. I couldn't just tell him when I didn't have any proof. And then his face drew close to mine again.
ところで、その克美がなかなか興味深いことを言っていたんだよ。自分たちは病気じゃない。別の世界の出来事を夢で見る能力があるだけだとかなんとか。
Damn it! He told her not to say anything about it. I mean, I told her not to say anything about it. Could she not help it? This was bad. They might start to doubt her sanity.
中瀬さんはとても想像力がたくましいというか、 SF とかアニメとか大好きですから、他の平行世界を感知できる力なんて多分趣味の影響で口にしただけじゃないかと思います。
She was watching the show called Steins or something like that. It's really good. I've heard good things about it.
実は
Main character's
俺
incredibly
も
attractive.
そういうことを言っていた時期があるんですよ。
I tried my best to come up with excuses, but Dr. Leskinen still seemed concerned.
だけどね、私も治療プロジェクトに参加して驚いたんだが、確かにこの病の特徴として多くの患者が夢を共有する不可思議な現象が起こっているんだ。集団幻覚に近いのかとも思って今調べているんだけどね。でもなんだろう、こんなことは初めてでね。脳科学的には今のところ解が導けない。正直非科学的という言葉が一番しっくりくるくらいだよ。それこそ平行世界とか前世の記憶とかね。
そうですか。
君も克美からいろいろと話を聞いてくれると助かるよ。医者に言えないことでも友人になら話すだろうしね。
はい、一応心がけておきます。
さて、リンタロウ、それはそれとして確認だ。
Dr. Leskinen was looking over my shoulder.
クリスマスパーティーの時にも感じたんだけれど、君のガールフレンドたちはキュートなお嬢さんばかりだね。
え？
I turned around and saw that Mayuri, Kaide, and Yuki had all stood up from the sofa and were looking at me. And now I'm uncomfortable. When they saw Dr. Leskinen was looking at them, they waved.
やはりあの中に恋人がいたりするのかい？ユキ、カエデ、マユリ、
My
ル
goodness
カ、
gracious.
それともカツミがそうなのかな？
His words were so surprising I couldn't think of anything to say. Maho would often call this middle-aged man a mischievous boy, and that was exactly the look he had on his face.
いや、別に無理に聞かせてくれとは言わないよ。君のプライベートを詮索する気はないからね。
Dude, he totally got me again. Like, I was totally... Like, I'm playing along, but also, like, for like just a bit, I totally forgot that he's, you know, sinister. But I just noticed that I'm totally, like, my brain totally just pushed that aside. I was totally just like, he's good. He is good.
ただまあ可愛い教
Damn it,
え
let's
子
get
に
it. You're
ちょっと
fucking.
した土産話をと思っただけさ。
な、
No. Dr. Leskinen turned to walk away before I could figure out what he meant.
それじゃリンタロ、私はもうちょっと院長と話をしないといけないから、これで。できればユキたちにも一人一人ハグしていきたいところだったが、次回にとっておこう。彼女たちによろしく。
あ、はい。
He is good. He is good. Mayuri and the others came over to me as I watched him go.
今の人レスキネン先生ですよね。どこかで見たことあると思った。アメリカに帰ったんじゃなかったでしたっけ？おかりん？
There was no way I could tell the girls what Dr. Leskinen and I were just talking about. After Fubuki's exam was over, we went to her room and listened to her complain, and then the visit was over. Just like Dr. Leskinen had said, she looked just fine. She told us she was ready to leave the hospital and jog all the way home. Mayuri and the others were relieved, but I felt worried. Did I need to talk to Dr. Leskinen about reading Steiner after all? But how would I explain it? It might be a better idea to talk to Maho and have her explain it to him. I couldn't come to an answer right away. Been a while. Hi, Suzuha. It was a very hot day in 1998 when Suzuha said goodbye to Shina Kaguri. She'd gone to get food and water from a local store, and when she'd come back and opened the hatch, Kaguri was inside screaming. She looked inside and saw that Kaguri was slamming her tiny hands down on the control console.
お前、何をしてるんだ?
Kaguri shrank back when she saw Suzuha.
違うの。これは、答えろ。だって目を覚ましたら鈴葉お姉ちゃんがいなくて、真っ暗で明かりもつかないし、狭くて怖くて苦しくて、だからかがりドアを開けたくて、それであちこちいじってるうちにこんなことに。
Kaguri started to cry.
ごめんなさい、鈴葉お姉ちゃん。ごめんなさい。でも本当に怖かったんだ。だから。そうか。
Suzuha relaxed her guard. Kaguri had PTSD from her time as a war orphan, and she hadn't fully recovered yet. Mayuri had once told her that she got very frightened in dark and cramped dark and cramped places. It would make sense if waking up in the dark caused a panic attack. And the time machine could only function with Suzuha's biometric authorization. Someone of Kaguri's size wouldn't be able to break the console either.
お前は時間移動のショックで気を失ってたんだよ。だから休ませておいたんだけど、悪かった。
Suzuha grabbed one of Kaguri's tiny hands to help her up, and then led her outside the machine.
暑い。かがり、約束するんだ。どんなことがあっても操縦席のスイッチに触ったりするな。いいな。じゃあ私は仕事にかかるから、お前はその辺で休んでるんだ。飲み物と食べ物は適当に食べていい。
Suzaha handed Kaguri the provisions she'd bought, then went inside and poked her head into the cargo space under the control console. She connected the IBM 5100 she'd stored there to a portable terminal she'd brought from the future. By all appearances, it was an early 2000s cell phone, but inside it was a miniaturized quantum computer from the year 2036. Of course, future Daru admitted himself. When she booted up the IBM 5100, rows of numbers started to appear on the screen.
何をするの?
Kaguri was looking in from outside of the machine.
2000年問題は勉強したか? 施設の学校でちょっとだけ。結局何にも起こらなかったんでしょ?
Oh, this got a cute smile.
表向きはね。公表されてないけど、実は当時あれのせいでいくつかの地域や国に深刻な問題が起きたんだ。そうなの？問題だったのはこの IBN5100 というコンピューターなんだよ。これには古いプログラム言語が搭載されてるんだけど、そのプログラムの問題点を技術者たちが修正できなかった。というより、そんな言語で書かれた重大なプログラムが存在すること自体全く知られてなかった。第三次世界大戦はタイムマシンの開発競争が発端なんだけど、もしかすると2000年問題で発生したある事象とそれに付随する対立こそがもっと深い原因である可能性がある。
She didn't expect a 10-year-old like Kaguri to understand this, but she didn't feel like taking the time to explain.
しかも西暦2000年というのは特殊な年でね、全ての世界線が一旦一つに収束してしまうらしいんだ。それに関連してこの問題があらゆる世界線の因果に重大な影響を引き起こすかもしれない。私たちが目指してる狭間の世界線、シュタインズゲートも例外じゃない。
She looked down at the terminal connected to the IBM 5100.
だからこれは2000年問題を起こさないようにするための修正プログラムなんだよ。
Right now, the terminal was converting the patch into the language used by the IBM 5100. The next step was to spread this program all around the world in the form of a virus, and the year 2000 problems in this oh my god, I can read, I swear, that this era's engineers missed would completely disappear. I think it's just the one problem, right? I don't think it's multiple problems. The word connect appeared on the terminal's subscreen. I might be wrong about that. I'm probably wrong about that.
OK つながった。
She'd been told that in Japan in this era, ADSL was still in the test phase, and most normal users connected to the internet by low-speed dial-up using ISDN. But in major city areas like Akihabara, universities, labs, and some big computer companies were starting to use fiber optic internet. Some of them were even using wireless LANs. Suzuha cracked her way into one of those. Dad had laughed when she'd said that with 2000 oh my god. Dad had laughed when he'd said that with 2020 fuck! I'm talking so goddamn slow and I'm still fucking up. Dad had laughed when he'd said that with 2036 technology, cracking late 20th century network security was a joke, but he'd been right.
でも未来を変えちゃったらカガリたちがいた未来の世界も全然変わっちゃうんじゃないの?
Surprisingly, Kaguri had gotten the gist of what Suzuha had just told her.
そういうことだ。もうあの世界は存在させない。私たちはシュタインズゲートを目指すためにここへ来たんだから。
Suddenly, the uneasy look on Kaguri's face vanished. It was as if her soul had left its body. Suddenly, her face was expressionless and her eyes were wide.
声、神様の声、聞こえる。カガリ？ ダメだよ。よくないよ。ダメなんだよ、鈴葉お姉ちゃん。そんなことしちゃいけないんだ。おい。
Kaguri was acting strangely. Suspiciously, Suzuha reached her hand out toward her. But she slipped past Suzuha's hand, and quicker than any child should be able to move, she slammed her shoulder straight into Suzuha's body. Suzuha was caught completely off guard. That's how fast it was. Kaguri's shoulder hit her in the solar plexus. She bent over and collapsed onto the seat. Kaguri tore the terminal out of Suzuha's hands. The cables connecting it to the IBM 5100 were ripped out, and errors displayed on both screens.
お前、何を?
Kaguri didn't answer the question. Instead, she grabbed the backpack that Suzuha had placed on the seat and spilled its contents onto the floor. There were MREs, spare parts, clothes, and a semi-automatic pistol. That last one is concerning. Suzuha couldn't believe it. Kaguri was going to try and pick it up.
やめろ!
She forced herself to ignore the pain as she jumped on Kaguri's body. But another unbelievably powerful body slam knocked her back. Jesus Christ. Something cold was pushed right up against her brow.
動いちゃダメ.
Kaguri's tiny hands weren't shaking at all as they clutched the semi-automatic pistol. In the space of an instant, the safety on the gun had been flipped off. That's when Suzuha realized that this wasn't just a temper tantrum. Suzuha was the one who taught her how to use a gun. That's why she knew that Kaguri was perfectly calm.
正気か? 今すぐ銃を下ろせ。こんな真似はやめろ。やめるのはお姉ちゃんの方だよ。何? 世界を変えちゃいけないんだ。お姉ちゃんはおかしいこと言ってる。
There was no hesitation in her eyes. Instead, Suzuha saw only resolve.
じゃあ、このまま戦争が起きてもいいっていうのか。そんなのわかんないよ。かがりは元の世界に戻りたいだけだもん。なら、もう無理だ。私たちはタイムマシンですでに過去に干渉してる。世界線だってずれてしまってるはずだ。あそこに戻れる可能性は低く。うるさい、うるさい、うるさい。かがりはママを絶対に助けるんだ。この世界を消すなんてダメだよ。絶対にやらせないから。
Kaguri turned the gun toward the IBM 5100.
やめろ!
Before Suzuha could stop her, she yanked down on the trigger. Again and again.
やめてくれ、かがり! やめろ!
And then Kaguri jumped out of the time machine. Suzuha never saw her again. On every night that passed, she remembered Kaguri. Suzuha had spent some time looking for Kaguri when she'd first come to this era, but in the end, she never found anything. But Shina Kaguri, who was now 22 years old, was here in Akihabara. Suzuha was sure of it. But it did no good to keep thinking about it. So Suzuha decided to stop thinking and look around the room. Itaru, her dad, was playing yet another game populated entirely with female characters. His jaw was slack, and he was scratching the belly that stuck out from under his shirt as he played. There wasn't much to respect in him right now, either as a father or as a person. God damn, that's fucking cutting.
そういえば、母さんとはうまくやれてる？
ね？
大丈夫？私が生まれてこなくなるような事態にならないよね。
なんつうの？タイムマシンよりもなんだい？
ちょっと。
So I was like, for me it is, motherfucker. Like, it's my existence. Suzuha stormed over to Utaru.
困るよ父さん。
うん。パパ、頑張るからね。
いっつも口ばっかり。結局例の映画のチケットも無駄にしちゃったんでしょ。
She meant the pair of movie tickets that Mayuri and Ferris had conspired to give them at the Christmas party.
あれはさ、オカリンと吹雪氏が倒れちゃったじゃん。その後お見舞いとかでバタバタしてるうちに映画が終わっちゃってたわけで、しょうがないっつうか。
でもその後新しいチケットを用意しようとしたら断ったって聞いたけど。
誰に？
まゆ姉さんとルミ姉さんに決まってるじゃないか。
そりゃあれだ。マユシとフェイリスタに頼りきりなんて男らしくないっしょ。キリ。
で自分で何か行動に移したわけ？ダメだこれ。
Maybe this was a more important problem than the time machine. Suzuha brought her hands up to her head.
いい父さん。私いつまでもこうやってお説教できないんだからね。もうすぐ行っちゃうんだよ。
Who's the parent again? Suddenly, there was a sad look in Itaru's eyes.
そういう顔しない。約束したはずだよ。もう迷うのはやめにしようって。
For the past 6 months, Suzuha had been thinking about whether it was really right to erase this world. But in the end, it was none other than Itaru who'd pushed her to go ahead.
ごめん。
She couldn't bear to see her father so depressed, so she patted his broad back. Again, who's the parent?
しょぼくれてないで母さんにメールして。予定の空いてる日がないか聞いて。で空いてたら映画に誘う。
いきなりハードル高すぎ。
高すぎでも何でもいいから誘いなさい。いい？これは命令だからね。
命令って。
返事は？
さあ、イエスさ。
Okie dokie! Satisfied, she headed off to take a shower.
でもその前にちょっとだけコンビニに行ってくる。にらまないで。なるべく太らないようなものを食べますんで、何卒お許しを。
バニラ。
はい。
私シャワー出たらアイス食べたい。バニラ。
わかった。庶民がなかなか口にできない高級なやつをいっぱい買ってきてあげる。
いっぱいはいらないよ。一つでいい。
さあ、イエス。
That was enough to cheer Daru up. He took his wallet and ran out of the lab.
やれやれ。世話がかかるんだから。
Alright, one sec. Bathroom break. Bathroom break. I'm back. Had to wait my turn. Alright. She had just about taken off her jacket so she could oh my god. Starting off strong. She had just about taken off her jacket so she could take that shower. But
Suzuha!
Itaru would come back into the lab.
どうかした？
階段のところにさ、こんなの落ちてたんだよね。
Itaru showed her a keychain he was holding. It was a round anime character whose color had faded to a smoky green. It was an Upa.
誰のかわかる？
まゆ姉さんじゃないの？
She leaned forward to take a closer look, and then it felt like she was experiencing deja vu.
このウーパー、どこかで。
She had seen it before? She couldn't really remember when, but her internal alarms were going off. This keychain was extremely important. Upas were common enough that you could find them anywhere. The plastic edges had worn down, the paint was faded and coming off in places. But there was no dust, and there were no stains. Instead, it shone brightly, as if its owner had put a lot of effort into taking good care of it. The chain was so old that part of it had snapped off. That was probably how it got dropped.
どこだっただろう。どこかで見た。
マユシに見せてもらったとか？
そうなのかな。
She stared at the green Upa in Itaru's hands. And then, in her mind, she heard a young girl's scream.
ママがずっと大切にしてきたウーパのキーホルダーだよ。かがりちゃんにあげる。大事にしてね。
Don't give me sad future Mayuri. She gasped. A feeling of indescribable terror raced down her spine.
まさかこれかがりのか。
That was when she'd last seen it. August 13th, 2020. Oh, why do I keep saying that? Fuck. I can read. It's 4 numbers. 2036. The day she'd gotten into the time machine. That was when she'd seen this Upa. It was older and more worn now, but the more she remembered that day, the more certain she became. This was the Upa that Mayuri had given to Kagari. She'd seen Kagari holding it and crying to herself many times before.
かがりってもしかして未来のマユシの娘？
うん。
見つかったん？
いや、でも向こうはこっちを認識しているんだ。
つまりどういうことだってばよ。
あいつこのラボを監視してるんだよ。
6 months ago, Suzuha had spotted someone in a writing suit spying on the time machine at Radican. She gave chase, but they got away. Suzuha was certain that person had to be Kagari. Ever since then, her careful efforts to defend the time machine had paid off, and she hadn't seen any sign of Kagari, but she never thought she'd be spying on the lab as well.
いや、ちょっと考えれば当たり前のことだったんだ。あいつは私たちがシュタインズゲートに到達するのを阻止しようとしてる。この世界をなかったことにしたくないと思ってる。ということは私だけじゃなく父さんもマークされてる。
え？僕？
まあ父さんの命に危険はないとは思うんだ。世界遺産の摂理を信じるなら父さんは少なくとも2036年までは生きるはずだし、 ただシュタインズゲート到達を阻止するために父さんの研究の邪魔はしてくるかもしれない。
A lot of bad things had been happening around Suzuha, Itaru, and Okabe Rintaro. There was some possibility that the final target was Itaru.
これからは用心のために私がいない時には必ずドアに鍵をかけておいて。
わかったお。
オカリンおじさんや母さんやマユ姉さんたちが一緒にいても絶対に開けっぱなしはダメだよ。気休めかもしれないけどドアチェーンもかけた方がいい。
でもさ、オカリンやマユシならともかくアマネシと二人きりの時にそんなことしたらなんか別の意味で怪しくね。アマネシに変な誤解されないかな。
それは確かに。
もしそれで嫌われでもしたら我が家のピンチだお。
Suzuha groaned softly, unsure of what to do.
父さんがもっと早く母さんと恋人になってれば何の問題もないのに。
で、結局そこへ話が戻るとか？
とにかく注意だけはしておいてよね。
Suzuha decided to keep the green Upa keychain. She softly ran her fingertips over it as she stared at it.
なあ鈴葉、かがりたんって血はつながってないけどマユシの娘なんだよね。
そうだよ。
あのマユシに育ててもらった子が人を襲うような恐ろしい人間になるのかな。なんか鈴葉の話とイメージが重ならないっつうか、もっと優しくてホワホワしてて可愛い女の子になってるんじゃないかなとか思ったり。
だとよかったんだけど。私も前はそうなると信じてたけど今のかがりは多分。
From what she'd seen at Radicon, she could tell Kagari had definitely received professional combat training. It wasn't just the simple self-defense techniques that she'd learned from Suzuha when she was a child. As she'd grown up, she'd been taught the cold techniques of a killer. There was no way to know where she'd been, or what she'd been doing ever since she'd gone missing in 1998. But there was no doubt in Suzuha's mind that she was trying to ruin her plans. Suzuha sighed as she took her shower. Since it was summer, she'd set the water temperature low. It was barely any hotter than tap water. As long as the water was pouring down on her, she could feel like all the bad memories were being washed away. She slapped her cheeks with both hands and turned off the water. The small tilted room suddenly became quiet. In the silence, she vigorously toweled off her hair. The building was never intended for anyone to live in. Not only was there very little room, there wasn't even a place to change. It was small and there were no windows, and the steam from the shower room built up, making it an unpleasant sauna in the summer. Supposedly, Itaru and Okabe would sit naked next to the fans to get away from the heat and moisture. Of course, that was only when the girls, as well as Urushibara Luka, weren't around. But Suzuha couldn't do that. There were those huge scars on her chest. If she was careless and Yuki saw them, she'd have a big problem. So she always forced herself to change within this small space. The second she left the shower room, she realized something was wrong. The lights were off in the part behind the curtain where the lab room was. She was sure she had left all the lab lights on when she'd gone to take a shower. She didn't remember turning them off. Still completely naked, she flung open the curtain. She dropped to the floor, ready to move. She could tell by the light from the shower room that there was no one else there. She didn't hear any breathing, and she didn't feel any other presence.
父さんが一度戻ってきたのか。
And then when he left, he turned off the lights? No, that couldn't be right. She looked around the room and saw that things had been moved in a way that an amateur wouldn't be able to notice. Itaru's computer desk, the sofa area, the bookshelves, even the mini kitchen, someone had gone through them all. From the look of it, the same was probably true of the development room. Suzuha glanced over to all the areas where she kept her guns. The closet was the closest. I read the closet. It does. It's like, what the fuck? The closest was the sofa that she used as a bed. She'd wanted to have one easily available if she was attacked while she slept, so she had cut out the back of one of the sofa cushions and hidden a suppressed semi-automatic pistol in it. It was just a .32 caliber for self-defense, so it wouldn't do much damage unless you had good aim, but it was small and relatively quiet, which made it the best choice for a place like this. Suzuha tensed all of her muscles, quailing like a spring, and slowly moved toward the sofa without making a sound. As she did, she tried to notice any changes in the surrounding area. There was a small sound in the development room. It was a tiny, tiny creaking of the floor, to which you'd usually pay no mind. But that was more than enough for Suzuha. In an instant, she moved from quiet to action. She cleared the distance to the sofa in an instant and quickly drew her gun. She held it ready and slipped into the shadow of the refrigerator. From this position, she could barely see into the development room. The room became silent again. I'm fucking tense. I got the goosebumps. This time, the intruder in the other room didn't try to hide their presence.
おかしな真似をしたら撃つ。手を頭の上に。そのままゆっくり出てこい。
Suzuha threatened the intruder in a low voice, but the intruder seemed completely unconcerned as they exposed themselves to Suzuha's gaze.
この暑いのによくそんな格好をしていられるな。ヘルメットだけでも取ったらどうだ?
The intruder was wearing a motorcycle suit, just like before. Even the helmet was the same. The leather suit clung tight to their skin, revealing a voluptuous and perfectly proportioned body. It was clearly a woman.
あんたが探してるものだけどね。そこにはないよ。私の服のポケットだ。
Suzuha pointed toward the entrance of the shower room. The shirt she'd just taken off was lying there on the floor. The girl in the motorcycle suit had turned her head, but because the face mask was down, Suzuha couldn't read her expression.
なあ、落としたらダメじゃないか。ママからもらった大切なものだろ、かがり。
The second she spoke, Shina Kagari was the first to move. She drew a deglossed military knife that she must have had hiding behind her back, and closed the gap between herself and Suzuha in an instant. Suzuha pointed the gun at her legs and pulled the trigger, carefully aiming away from her vitals. She heard the small pop of a suppressed .32 and saw Kagari lose her balance and fall. Or she thought she did, but it was a feint. She'd only pretended to lose her balance. In fact, she changed directions and was headed for the shower room. It seemed her first goal was to get what she'd come for.
これは
After firing only one shot, Suzuha realized, even a .32 should have more recoil than this. She fired again, but Kagari didn't flinch even for a moment.
ブランクカートリッジ。どうして
At some point, all the bullets in Suzuha's gun had been swapped with blanks. That instant's panic was all it took. Kagari reached out for the shirt on the floor in front of the shower room.
この
Suzuha gave up on firing and flung the gun at Kagari. Chuck that shit. There was a dull thud as the hard barrel slammed into her neck. Caught off balance, she staggered before she could grab the shirt. She could hear Kaguri's voice for the first time from within the helmet. Suzuha jumped. She kicked the off-balance Kaguri as hard as she could with her toned, muscled legs. This was no time to hold back. Kaguri went flying all the way to the edge of the room. That had to have broken a few ribs. Suzuha jumped toward her to continue her attack. With terrifying speed, Kaguri leapt off the ground and charged at Suzuha. There wasn't enough time to come to a full stop. A sharp blade swept by, mere centimeters from her exposed abdomen. If she'd pulled back even a few tenths of a second later, the knife would have fatally sliced open her gut.
Oh my!
Jesus Christ. Not doing it. Nope. The blood rushed to Suzuha's head. Kaguri was serious. She was planning to kill her. There was no hesitation in her movements. Suzuha leaped back and searched for something she could use as a weapon. But the other guns were probably no different. There was a good chance they'd all have their ammo swapped with blanks too. It was even possible that all her self-defense knives had been taken too. Which left... There were several knives carefully stored in the kitchen. Yuki had brought them over to use in teaching the other girls how to cook. Kaguri had evidently noticed them as well, and she was moving to keep Suzuha from reaching them.
Hey, ずいぶん離れしてるじゃないか。
I just want her to pick up the fucking Siloom sabers. Future gadget number 6, bitch.
とてもマシンの中でベソベソ泣いてた子供とは思えないな。驚いたよ。
Suzuha kept her distance from Kaguri as she slowly moved along the wall. Her competitive drive burned even brighter as she tried to come up with a way to overcome her disadvantage.
ほら、カガリ、これだろ。
She picked up her shirt from in front of the shower room and took the green keychain out of its pockets. That'll do it.
どうした？取りに来なよ。
Her fingers moved as if to crush it. She could see Kaguri twitch. For the first time, she could detect a hint of emotion beyond the helmet. And in an instant, she threw it at Kaguri's stomach. The keychain flew in a slow arc, like she was tossing it to a friend. If something they loved was thrown like that, even the fiercest warrior would instinctively reach out with both hands to grab it. Kaguri was no exception. She carefully held her mother's memento in both her empty left hand and the right hand that still clutched the knife. Using the slow arc of the keychain as camouflage, Suzuha ran at her in a straight line. Her right fist connected hard with Kaguri's stomach. Then her left arm smashed Kaguri's head to the side. Jesus Christ. Kaguri's body fell to the ground, her right shoulder taking the brunt of the fall. Suzuha could hear the sound of her joint dislocating. The knife slipped from her grasp. Suzuha got behind her and mounted her, twisting her right arm mercilessly. Oh my goodness gracious. At the same time, she slipped her own arm around Kaguri's neck and squeezed hard. Am I getting in trouble for this? This is... there's no bits, right? That's fine. It's fine. This is, fine. She could hear something like a moan from Kaguri's throat. She could both hear and feel the bones in her arm and neck creaking.
おとなしくしろ。殺しはしない。
Kaguri picked up the knife on the floor with her left hand and once again tried to use it on Suzuha. Suzuha was forced to squeeze her arm and neck even harder.
もうやめろ、カガリ。今の私にはお前の気持ちだってわかるんだ。でもやっぱりそれは間違ってる。間違ってるんだ。
But Kaguri didn't stop. If anything, she tried even harder to pull Suzuha away.
こいつ 一体どんな訓練を受けてきたんだ。
Even in all the battles she'd been in, this much pressure on 2 different spots was enough to get even the toughest soldier to submit or fall unconscious. Terrified, Suzuha squeezed even harder. At this rate, she wouldn't simply knock her out. She really would kill Kaguri. But if she stopped, Kaguri would kill her. What should she do? No, no, stop! No! And then she heard a sad, weak voice from inside the helmet. It startled her. She relaxed both of her arms. But that was just what Kaguri had hoped for. The knife came very close to cutting Suzuha's left arm. When she let go to dodge it, Kaguri shook her off and kicked at her hips with both legs. Suzuha was slammed back hard into the computer desk, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. She fell to the floor, and the printer and monitor crashed mercilessly into her naked body. Jesus Christ! She forced herself to stand up, gasping hard as she did so. Kaguri's breathing was heavy, too. Her right arm was pointed in an impossible direction, hanging limp. She wouldn't be able to use it for a while, probably. But her left arm was still holding the knife.
お前、随分と汚い真似まで覚えたんだな。
Suzuha glared at Kaguri's face, not that she could see what it looked like behind the helmet. The two of them fell silent as they tried to catch their breath. The tension in the air was so thick that it was difficult to move a muscle. Sweat rolled down her forehead and into her eyes, but she still didn't blink as she waited for Kaguri to make her next move. It was the sound of the front door opening that broke their stalemate.
おい、鈴葉、今すごい音しなかった？
Bad timing, my guy. Suzuha felt a chill run down her spine when she heard Itaru's voice.
あれ？なんで真っ暗なん？
ダメだ、父さん！来ちゃダメ！
She yelled at the same instant he turned on the lights. The sudden brightness was enough to make Suzuha flinch for an instant. Kaguri was wearing a full face helmet, and that made all the difference. She leapt toward Itaru just a moment before Suzuha. Fair? Kaguri's black knife went up to his throat. Kaguri spun around behind him, using Itaru's huge body as a shield. Suzuha staggered toward him, gritting her teeth.
その手を離せ、かがり。父さんに傷一つでも負わせてみろ。たとえお前でも本当に殺す。
Oh no! Suzuha! Jesus Christ. But Kaguri remained silent as she headed outside the door with her hostage. And then in the next moment, she shoved him forward. Itaru lost his balance and fell toward Suzuha. Suzuha fell to the ground underneath his weight. Itaru just barely managed to support himself with his arms and legs to keep from crushing her. Suzuha tried to shove him off, using a little more force than she may have intended. But Itaru was so huge, it would take him a moment to get up. Yeah, this is why. This exact scenario. She was getting away. She somehow managed to crawl out from under him and quickly tried to follow after Kaguri.
鈴葉、これ着て！
Itaru was still lying on the ground as he tossed the naked Suzuha her shirt. She grabbed it and quickly put it on, then ran outside. But when she looked around the street, the girl in the motorcycle leathers wasn't there. There was no way to even know where she'd gone.
逃げられた。
It would be dangerous to run around trying to find her now. There was a chance Itaru would be attacked while she wasn't at the lab.
今のってまさかかがりたん？
Itaru came outside as well.
多分間違いない。
そっか。
結局あの子とはこうなっちゃうんだな。
The bruises and wounds were bad enough, but the pain that ached in her heart was the worst of all.
私さ、あの子のこと本当に好きだったんだ。
うん。
小さくても勇敢で、まゆ姉さんを守るためにいつも頑張ってて、私もそんなあの子にいろいろなことを教えた。きっと妹みたいに思ってた。
うん。
けどあいつはもう完全に敵だ。
Itaru straightened up her shirt sleeves.
今の鈴葉、なんかエロゲーの地上キャラっぽい格好になってるよ。
Daru, you really know how to bring the fucking mood down, don't you? I guess... read the room, my guy.
Oh?
He wasn't even listening, he's just like, Suzuha was caught completely off guard. True, her t-shirt only came down to just below her hips, roughly the length of a miniskirt. Her breasts were almost completely bared. The shirt's hem was turned up, and she felt exposed. Put some
まあ僕は地上物
pants
も結
on.
構いける口なんで、乱れた裸 T シャツというのもありといえばありですが、むふー。
またそうやってふざける。大怪我してたかもしれないのに。
But Itaru shook his head.
僕さっきはナイフ見て騒いじゃったけど、でも怖がる必要なかったんじゃないかなって。あれがもし僕の聞き間違いじゃなかったら。
Itaru rubbed the part of his neck where the knife blade was.
ナイフを突きつけられてた時、ほんの少しだけど聞こえたんだよ。
何が？
彼女多分泣いてた。
え？
Crying? Under that helmet? After that whole battle with Suzuha? While holding a knife to Itaru's neck? But why?
だからさ、決めつけるのはまだ早いんじゃね？
父さん。
の？
アイス買ってきてくれた？バニラ。
ああ、もちろん。
食べたいな。私ちょっと疲れちゃった。
And then she almost fell forward.
で、
Itaru managed to catch her before she hit the ground.
おい、鈴葉。
ごめん、平気。でも少しだけ休ませて。
That was all she had the energy to say. She closed her eyes in her dad's arms, and her consciousness melted away. Well, now I'm sad. When July came, When July came, the sun shone down even harder on eastern Japan. Summer was truly here. The news had been saying for days that the heat island effect might make this the hottest summer in years. And then, on the first Sunday in July, I met with Maho in Akihabara. I was waiting at the open cafe at UPX when Maho arrived. Maho! She was a little late.
岡部さん。
But that's okay, because she's Maho.
久しぶり。
She ordered an iced coffee and took a deep breath.
と言ってもいつもビデオチャットで顔は合わせてるが。
そうね。あまり久しぶりという感じはしないわ。
Her habit of paying no attention to her clothes or looks hadn't changed at all in the last 6 months. That, I mean, aesthetically, that's probably my favorite part about her. She didn't give a fuck. I love it. People were going to think she was an elementary school kid who decided to go play at a friend's house. But I would like to reiterate, she don't give a fuck. But it would upset her if I said that, so I never would.
まさかこっちに来てるとは思わなかったよ。偶然レスキネン教授と会わなかったら今も知らないままだった。
落ち着いたら連絡するつもりだったのよ。クリスのことで定期的な連絡はいずれにせよしなければならないのだし。
今回は新型脳炎の研究だって。
レスキネン教授はね。私はその助手という立場だけど、どちらかというとアマデウス担当。何か不具合はない？と言ってもこれもいつも報告は受けているから大体の状況は分かっているつもりだけれど。
ああ、特に問題ない。最近はクリスの相手をするのに苦労してるけどな。
ちょっと。
I'm here also, hi. I heard a voice from my smartphone, which I'd placed on the table.
苦労ってどういう意味？
I had left the Amadeus app turned on. Of course, Kurisu could hear everything we said.
最初に会った頃よりちょっと口調がきつくなってきてる気がする。
あんたが勝手に私にビビってるだけでしょ？
かもな。
It was turning into our old relationship in the Alpha World line, where we'd fought all the time. I was starting to lose track of whether that was a good or a bad thing for me. I thought I was trying to forget about Kurisu.
ヒアジョーさんは初めて会った時の方が口調はきつかったな。
あれは
初対面の人には先輩はきついのよ。なぜかというと
年相応に見てもらえないから。
The two of them spoke in unison.
だからついカリカリしちゃうのよ。
I mean,
あ
that's
る程
fair.
度親しくなれば容姿のことも言われなくなるでしょ。だから心穏やかに話せるというだけ。
I guess I was right not to comment on her outfit. That was a close call.
アマデウスの話に戻すけど、クリスの口調がきつくなったというのは面白い兆候だわ。私や教授の前では見せない一面なわけでしょ。それだけ深く心を開いているとも言えるかもしれない。
開いてません。
Maho simply smiled and ignored her.
そうした心の動きをプログラムとして解析できるから、私や教授と話しているだけでは決して見られなかった変化だわ。それだけで岡部さんにテストを続けてもらった価値もあるというものよ。
そんなものか。
レスキネン教授もその点を高く評価していたわ。
課題評価だと思いますが、実際私と話す時も文句や愚痴が多いですし、あまり男らしくないというか。
Damn. Well, I knew my personality had gotten a bit negative, especially given what I'd been through. But did she really need to say that to Maho right now? An eye for an eye it is then. Oh boy.
ちなみに今まで報告していなかったことがあるんだが。
何かしら。
これはおそらくヒアジョーさんやレスキネン教授も把握していないことだと思う。
待って、あんた何の話をしようとしてるの？真帆先輩や教授が把握していないことって、私についての？
栗ご飯とカメハメハといえばわかるか？
Yo! Fucking tattled. A few weeks ago, I had actually searched for Kurigohan and Kamehameha on a whim. It was the handle Kurisu had used on @channel when she was still alive. From what I'd seen, the comments started in summer of 2008, then abruptly stopped in July of 2010. then started up again in December of that same year. Even now, in July 2011, they were still appearing. If it wasn't Kurisu's ghost, and it wasn't an imposter, then the only one who could be writing these posts were... those posts was...
ちょっと2人だけで話をしましょうか。
Hit him with that Okabe Rintaro-san! Oddly polite all of a sudden, are we?
仕業だったか。
Oh, that's so funny.
さすがに黙っているのはまずいんじゃないか。
真帆先輩に報告するなんてもっとまずいわよ。
なんで？
私がアートチャンネルを見てることは一言も教えてないからに決まってるでしょ。
堂々としていればいいじゃないか。アットチャンネルを見るのも書き込むのも別に犯罪じゃないんだし。そうだろ？アットチャンネラークリス。
あんたね、次にその呼び方したらあることないことアットちゃんに書き込んでやるわよ。
それこそ犯罪一歩手前の行為だろう。
I couldn't help but laugh. Conversations like this brought back so many memories. I used to be so full of myself that I'd tick off Kurisu all the time.
ねえ、一体何の話？
なんでもありません。気にしないでください。海馬からきれいさっぱり今日の記憶を頬張り去ってください。
隠していたっていつかはバレるぞ。
あんたはいいから黙りなさい。
やっぱりあなたたち半年前よりずっと仲良くなっているわね。
先輩、すみません。
え？どうして謝るの？
あ、いえ、せっかく岡部と真帆先輩久々に会ったのに私ばかり話してしまって。というわけで、あとはお二人でごゆっくりどうぞ。
別にそんなつもりで言ったんじゃないわよ。
それもこれも岡部が変なことを言い出したせいね。
そうなのか。栗ご飯とカメハメハ。
お願いだから言わないで。
Well, let me hear that again. It's like almost musical. Like she's singing a song or some shit. Just like the real Kurisu, she was strangely obsessed with hiding the fact that she was an at channeler.
ちょっと頭を冷やしたいので一度切りますね。失礼します。
Kurisu disappeared from the screen. Kurisu had been kind of rude lately, so it felt good to have a chance to get back at her. If I ever did it, she was probably going to hold a grudge, so this was likely a good place to stop.
栗ご飯って何なのよ。
どうしても知りたかったらクリスに聞いてくれ。
If I explained it, she'd probably get mad and refuse to talk to me again.
それで今回はどれぐらいの間こっちに滞在することになりそうなんだ？
前よりも長くなるかもしれないわね。レスキネン教授が研究している新型脳炎は未だに詳しいことがほとんど分かっていないようだから、もしかしたら私だけ先に帰らされる可能性もあるけど。
時間があったらラボにも顔を出してみるといい。ダルやマユリもきっと喜ぶはずだ。
マユリさんはともかく橋田さんはどうかしら。
Maho was finally starting to understand Daru's true nature. Speaking of Daru, he should be on a date with Amane Yuki right now.
ちなみにクリスのノート PC はその後どうしたの？
あれは破棄したよ。それが一番いい判断だったんだ。前にそう話しただろう。
ええ、そうね。
She looked down, a sad expression on her face. I told her I was going to do it ahead of time, but it still must have upset her to see one of the last things she had to remember Kurisu by destroyed. All right, I think I'm gonna call it here. Actually, it's. I usually go for a little longer, but I'm tired. Good transition, good place to stop. I'm gonna call it. I have an appointment on Monday, but I should still be able to stream. It's at 1:30. I should probably be back by 3. I'm almost certain. Almost, like 82%. 82.76538%. Bye. Did I already save? I did. I'm gonna save again. Bye.